Hi everyone, Happy New Year! So today's video is gonna be a bit different. I'm gonna answer your question. So you've been a lot contacting me about the industry, how it works, and usually I'm kind of delivering the same answer, so I figure why not make a video out of it, and so it can benefit more people than just a few emails here and there, alright? So let's get ready and go. The first question is, can you give a brief introduction about you, who you are, what do you currently do? Fair enough. It's been a year since I made this YouTube channel and never actually introduced myself. So for those who wonder, I'm a 3D artist. I graduated in VFX Montpellier in 2013. So I've been in the industry for the past 8 years or so. And yeah, I've been working in different companies around the world. So this includes London, Germany, Hungary, New Zealand, and I'm working in Canada now, in Vancouver. So at the moment, I'm working as a lead generalist at ILM Vancouver. So I focus a lot on environment. So a lot of people assume that I am a Houdini artist or something. Mostly because most of my tutorials are about Houdini. So no, sorry, I'm not specialized in Houdini. I'm mostly a generalist and do a lot of different things from modeling, texturing, sculpting, and lighting. So Houdini is actually just here to help me speed up my workflow. And well, we'll see how it goes, but in terms of production, hopefully you can use it more in the future. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it about myself. So let's see, what else do we have? What made you get where you are now? Mostly, I would say, passion, hard work, and coffee. Well, to be fair, I think a lot of it is due to my personal project. Every time I had an interview with any company, they were mostly asking questions about my personal project. Even though I already graduated and was working, well, I always felt like it was important for me to do personal project and grow as an artist like that, discover new skills and experiment different kind of art. I think it was very important for me. And it really interested most of the people that interviewed me in my career. Because the thing is, when you just have a showreel with film project, it's kind of difficult to see what you are able to do, because sometimes some shots are made, it's a teamwork, right? So hundreds of artists can work on the same shot and you don't know if you did just one pixel or most of the shot. I mean, it's kind of like that. So the fact to have some personal project here and there in your reel really help to kind of give an idea to the supervisor, what is your level, what are your skills, this kind of thing. So I think it was really key for me in my career. Yeah. Why did you start learning a 3D software and what was the incentive to you then? Ooh. I started learning CG when I was about 13 or 14 years old. Well, I started mostly with After Effects, Photoshop, this kind of thing. I was mostly doing some goofy short film with my twin brother. So it was just a fun way to occupy your free time, and we had a lot of fun. I think back then I wanted to remake Star Wars. I actually built some props, costumes, and crazy stuff like that with my brother and some friends, and we're going in the woods and try to remake Star Wars. So the things we were shooting were obviously way too ambitious for our level, but we had fun doing it. Never managed to finish it, but we had some fun time, really. During high school, I was like, oh, okay, I think that's what I want to do for a living. So I ended up like going to school after at VFX in Montpellier, and tried to fix all the stuff I learned in the wrong way. So that's the thing when I was like a teenager and I was teaching myself VFX through magazines and stuff like that, because there wasn't YouTube tutorials or things like that really back then. It was a bit more challenging to find tutorials. What year was that? I was 13, I'm 29 now, so it was in, well, whatever, it's like way before 2010. So yeah, back then, whatever you had was good enough to learn. And sometimes you learn some wrong stuff. And the fact to have some great teachers at VFX helped me fix what I learned wrong, I think. So thanks to my teacher, especially Pierre Lergenmüller, who had a pretty big impact on my way to CCG and stuff like that. So yeah, big up to VFX. A lot of personal projects, short film, that's how I started, really. So according to you, what makes an ideal 3D artist and what do most artists lack in general? That's a good question. I think in general, people get too absorbed with the technical side of CG because there are so many stuff to know just to produce one picture. So it's easy to get too absorbed and forget about the main purpose of why we are doing that, and it's to tell stories. And most of the time students are preparing some models and stuff, but without actually adding the little details, the mood, the composition that actually gonna sell the story. And in the end, it's the most important thing that you can do within your work. So really, when you tackle a project, always think story. I think it's important, or at least visual. What else? No, I think that's my main take on this point, really. When and why did you start learning Houdini? What was the most difficult thing to pick up while you were learning Houdini yourself? Okay, I probably started learning Houdini in 2014 when I was starting my job at the mill. And I had some friends working there who told me, well, on some project, we are using Houdini for the lighting, rendering, shading, this kind of thing. So I didn't want to be left behind if I integrated the studio and lacked knowledge about it. So for me, it was important to learn a bit of Houdini before starting. I didn't even end up using it. I don't think I used it really. But I was really happy to kind of get an introduction to this software, and I really realized the potential of using Houdini back then. I didn't end up staying a really long time at the mill, just a few months. I had a freelance contract with J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot. They were like, do you want to do some sci-fi with us? I was like, oh yeah, sure. At this point, I was missing doing sci-fi stuff, so I was like very happy to do whatever. So yeah, I think that's how I started Houdini, but really, I really used it a bit later on. I kept watching tutorials from time to time and trying to make sense of what I watched. Then regarding the things I did wrong in my learning, I would say I probably should have go back to the fundamentals of mathematics and not like a simple addition, right? But more like what's a vector, what's a cross product, well, this kind of thing really helped actually learning Houdini. And also scripting, programming, this kind of thing is also a great benefit because you have an idea what's the difference between a variable, an attribute, dictionary, all those kind of notions that you use for programming, matrix, and so on. So this kind of knowledge, if you're like saying that in a tutorial, but really are not sure about what that is, you should really dig deeper and try to understand why this has an impact on the project you're doing. because otherwise you're just learning, repeating stuff in Houdini without understanding what's going on. So I don't think it's an efficient way to retain information. So if you want to be able to use any like setups or things in your own project, it's important that you know all these definitions really and are comfortable with the mathematic and program vocabulary. Do you think learning something like Houdini is purely an information game? Is gathering a certain specific set of data all there is to learning? Well, that's a good question. Actually, you can read documentation as much as you want. It won't be an efficient learning as long as you don't practice. So I insist on that. It's really important that you practice, and not just practice for practicing, but have some short-term goals, some project that you can use in a demo reel or anything, in portfolio maybe, and you use that to experiment and tell stories. You always think visual. That's an important thing to keep in mind. It's not to start a project, fiddle around and just stop there. It's no, you wanna be able to show a project from like start to finish. So you can of course team up with someone that can maybe deal with either, I don't know, the compositing, the animation or this kind of thing. I think it's always a good exercise to team up with someone because in the end in production it's a teamwork. So I think this experience is very valuable too. And when you do a project, well, you start small. You're not gonna start by making a, I don't know, don't remake Star Wars, for example. I would say also try to learn and practice through real things that are real. That's what I mean. Don't try to make a cool concept you see on internet and be like, oh, I want to make that. But the thing is, like, you're learning, so you're gonna reach a point where you won't be able to reach a certain level of detail just because the concept is a concept. And I think that practicing through trying to copy, trying to mimic real stuff, like if you're an environment artist, just trying to make a realistic forest, like a forest shot or a desert, or there are so many environments you can think of on Earth that are real, and you can find many photo reference, and I think to me, being able to do that can lend you a job like anywhere you want. If you manage to make something realistic, that's all you need really to kind of get a job, I think. But it's actually a lot of observation, dedication, attention to detail. So yeah, to me, I think it's a very interesting exercise, and only then when you have these kind of foundations, you know what a real environment look like, you can start twist it to kind of make more concept stuff and develop some more ideas around it. Especially if you're a junior or you're a student, I would say it makes more sense to approach the learning this way, because there you already have a lot to focus on with the technical side, that if you just need to match like something real, it's so much easier for learning, in my opinion. What are your takes on studio job? Small scale studio, large one, medium, maybe freelance work? So at this point, I kind of tried pretty much every structure, either freelance or being employee to a company, a big one, a small one. Doesn't really matter really for me. As long as I am being challenged, the pay is decent and comes in time, and that the team is like somewhat friendly and at least the communication is smooth. For me, that's all I ask, and that the project is like good quality. For me, I don't really mind about working in small studio as long as I got these three requirements. I would call that my holy trinity. So next question. Is it the financial aspect of a job or career that define its glory and success? Or is it the achievements made in the form of work? Or is it simply defined by the content of one's own self? Well, that's a deep question. Well, I was saying, for me, it's important to grow as an artist. If you're doing a job and you're not feeling like you're growing or learning something new, well, for me, it's a problem. That's why I changed so many times company, is because I wasn't using my full potential. Even though sometimes the pay was really good, I was like, I'm sorry, that's I can just do that a certain amount of time and then I need to move on to something else, really. So for me, it's a matter of finding the sweet spot between being challenged and growing. The team, like having a nice team that you can get along with. There would be the financial aspect is important because, of course, well, you can have some student loan, you can have all that kind of thing, you want to build a life, so it's important that, well, you get a nice salary out of it as well. Especially if you've been studying for several years, you don't want to get stuck to a position where you can barely kind of, let's say you just survive and that's it. That's a bit sad considering that the industry is so big. I don't know. Yeah, for me, I did work with a nice pay, great team at Weta. I mean, those guys are awesome. I was really felt privileged to work with guys that have so much experience. I learned a lot from it, but to some extent I was also like very specialized as a look dev artist, so I was a bit frustrated not being able to tweak models or the layout of the shot or some stuff like that. So for me, I knew that there would be a point where I would need to try another job or move department or this kind of thing, really. So yeah, when I had this opportunity to be generalist ILM, I gave it a shot and I ended up really liking it. Like the job that those guys are doing in Gens, I think is really awesome. The project are great, team is, it's pretty amazing to have like so many talented artists, but at the same time being so humble about it. I don't think there are some big ego problem, like compared to smaller companies that I worked in that can get a bit more random, like in this area, I would say. So yeah, really I'm pretty happy like working at ILM. It's really great. For me, that's why I stayed so long in this company. So for me, more than a year is considered long because all my previous experience were not more than a year or 6 months or yeah. Which is sometimes kind of a point where I'm kind of arguing with HR or during interviews. They're like, they are feeling that, oh, maybe you're unstable because you didn't stay long enough in this company. Does that mean that there's something sketchy about you? And well, my answer is really honest. It's like, I studied a lot. I worked on my art a lot. And if I'm not happy in one place, I don't see why I should stay and make my life miserable if I know that I can be happy in another place. So at the same time, it's always a great experience to try stuff, but at the same time you realize, well, it was great, but I need to try something different. And when you find the right place, you're like, oh, okay, I think this place makes more sense for me. So it will really depend on some people. Some people are happy, let's say, not being challenged. I got some friends who like, do you hate being happy? I'm like, no, I enjoy, but for me, being happy is about growing, being challenged, and feel like I'm going somewhere, that my art is improving. So yeah, that's my take on success. And for some people, it would be have an easy job, get a nice pay, and spend time with family, and I understand that perfectly. For me, well, that's a kind of different priority, I guess. What are some usual but uncommonly heard ways of getting your name out to the industry or the studios in general? So I don't think there is any secret for that kind of thing. It's really a matter about working on your reel or graduation movie or portfolio and send that to the companies that interest you. You can follow them on LinkedIn, and when they have position that is available that match what you are looking for, well, that's where it's important to send your application, and don't hesitate to join a motivation letter. I think it's still very important, especially if you're new to the industry. Shouldn't be a long letter, of course, but what's your motivation, what interests you in that company, that sort of thing. And in your reel, you just keep the best of your best project. If you're thinking, I'm not sure about that shot, should I keep it? If you're not sure, it's probably shouldn't be in there. So really, it's more about keeping a few projects that looks high quality than a lot of random work in progress. I think the way you share your reel, let's say on LinkedIn, is as important as the content of your show reel itself. A lot of cases, I see students sharing their reel like, here is my reel, I graduated from here, or I just did this class and here it is. I'm looking for a job, give me a job. Okay, I kind of get it, but at the same time, I would say it's more beneficial to explain what you've been doing the past year, what were your challenges, how you solved them, and what kind of position you're looking for, in which sector, in which industry. Is it for games, movie, TV, VR, HVs, I don't know, animation. There are a lot of different possibilities really. So it's important to be clear about that. And I think this extra effort will push the right person to at least check out your reel. So yeah, don't underestimate the impact that a post can have, really. According to your experience in the VFX industry, do you think there are many opportunities around the world for an innovative artist? Does it seem sensible to you to move to a different country which has a fair paying job? So there are a lot of opportunities for sure. It's not like decades ago where you would have mostly studios in Hollywood or maybe in Europe, and that's it. Now you have a lot of branches that popped up in Asia, Australia, you have a bunch in Europe, India, pretty crazy. So really, it's up to you how you are showing your work that will make people wanna hire you. And I would say one important thing is how you brand yourself as well. It's important to communicate well about what you do. I follow this guy, Alan McKay. If you don't follow him, well, maybe give it a try. I think he's got some fair point about branding yourself. I mean, treat yourself as a business. It's like, because we are a company, it's like you are delivering a service, which is, I don't know, doing FX, environment, whatever you're making. So it's important that you treat yourself as a company and are professional about it on social media, giving the idea of a high standard, and that you prove that you are high standard in your reel, in the work you deliver, will be really key for you to kind of get work outside your country. Also, depending where you live, it can be tricky to get a visa. So for example, I come from France, and if I want to work in Canada or US or New Zealand, Australia, I need a visa, a work permit approved by the government of this country. And that can be a pretty tricky process. This can be pretty frustrating as well if it doesn't work. So one thing about doing a school, there are a lot of pros and cons, either like doing a school or if you have to learn by yourself. Well, it's another question. Maybe I'll talk about it in other videos, but the main take on doing a school is that you can get a degree that is recognized by other governments. And just the fact that it is recognized can speed up the application process. So having a degree will be helpful in the eye of the government, but it doesn't actually give you a job. That would be the role of your portfolio, how you are branding yourself, this kind of thing. And yeah, at that point, I think I replied to this question. How do you see the VFX industry's growth in suppose 20, 30 years down the line? How do you see the industry evolve in the coming decade? All right, so it looks like there is a trend of virtual production at the moment with, of course, The Mandalorian, who kind of popularized this concept, and it totally works because, well, the guy is always like very reflective, very shiny armor. So if you'd shoot on green screen, you would get a lot of reflection. It would look very comped, and I don't know. I feel like having virtual set in this case makes sense, and they did a very terrific job at it. I mean, it's really amazing, and I think this gets a lot of people excited about virtual production, and we'll probably see more of it. Now, I don't think this is gonna completely change because, well, of course it's great for environment, but there is still creature, animation, visual effects, all that kind of things that will come after. It's great for the environment and shooting stuff, but it solves just one problem, really. For me, it's just gonna concern a fraction of shot, and those fraction of shot will mean that the work will happen more in pre-production instead of post-production. But I still think there will be a lot of matte painting, like CG environment, that kind of thing, really, to really sell a shot. And usually, well, directors, producers, they want to have control till the end. And it also implies that those directors needs to know what they want way before they shoot. Sometimes the story isn't finished while they shoot. So I think if it's changed, there is also this mentality of knowing what you want that has to change. Because usually, if you worked in the industry for the past years, you probably know how crazy it can be, like the turnover for environment, like all of a sudden you are completely changing the environment to something else or redoing some shots from scratch at the last minute. So it really depends. It really depends on the director or the producer, their vision, if they want to change the story, this kind of thing. And the fact that virtual set, well, it's great, but at the same time, once it's shot, if you want to change that, it's a bit more challenging, I would say. So I still think that green screen has good years ahead. In terms of pipeline, I think we'll see a rise of the USD. And okay, so for those who don't know what USD is, it's a format developed by Pixar. I think it's called the Universal Scene Description, that basically store different kind of datas that can be, well, that can be huge scenes, that can be model variants, textures, lighting, all that good stuff. And it's universal, so you can basically open that in any application that support USD. And actually, Side Effects worked on USD quite a lot with the version 18, and since then they've been improving Solaris, which is their new system to kind of work with these USD files. And I think that can potentially become pretty huge, and most likely bigger companies will adopt it in the coming years. It's still pretty buggy at the moment, and a lot of things that are not like quite production ready yet, but we can expect it to get fixed very soon, and I'm confident that SideFX will do a great job at it. And yeah, we'll see. One more thing that will probably change in the decade might be the use of AI, I think. So we see some deep fake kind of workflow with the face replacement, that kind of thing, and even for some minor tasks or some kind of tedious stuff, I think AI will be great at facilitating some workflows. I'm pretty confident that it will help a lot, and yeah, we'll see where it goes, but it's a exciting time to be alive in the VFX, I would say. There is a lot of Unreal Engine that will, of course, pop up. I'm sure that this will have a big impact on the industry, like the real time, not just for virtual set, but as a post-production tool maybe. So we'll see how it goes, yeah. What do you plan on doing for the majority of the year 2021, and what are your goals for the life ahead? 2021, I would say my priority is not screw up with my new position first, because okay, I'm a lead generalist, but it's still fairly new to me. I'm still adapting and, let's say, learning the ropes. So it's fun, but sometimes it's an extra responsibility where I would hate myself if my team suffer from my incompetence, let's put it this way. So yeah, there is that, but I still want to also share my experience and experiment with Houdini and different software on my YouTube channel, because, well, it's a lot of fun, especially in this pandemic. It's just great, like, have a community and communicate with the rest of the world. I think it really makes sense to me. I really want to have fun making videos for YouTube, and I also want to link it to my other project, which is making a short film. I started that last year. It's in a state where it's still very pre-production, really, because worked on making it a live action kind of short film with some VFX integration, but it was really challenging with the virus and all that stuff. We had some promising kind of beginning, but I would say that we're reaching a point where we're like, maybe it would be just easier to make it full CG, really, and buy some mocap suits and that kind of thing. So yeah, actually all the benefits I get from, well, let's say YouTube pays for my coffee, but the rest, Gumroad and ArtStation store, this kind of thing kind of help me to save and invest in my project for license, for equipment, all that kind of stuff. I'm about to receive my new workstation, so I'm super hyped about that with my RTX 3090. So I really can't wait to test that and share that with you. And yeah, that should be fun. So yeah, as I said, I really want to work more on my short film during my free time and can try to bridge what I'm doing on YouTube with my short film, basically. You can expect also more videos like this, I guess, maybe some interviews with other people where we just talk about the industry, really. Depends, I guess, if you guys are interested in this kind of content. And yeah, I think that's for at least 2021, 2022. Now for the rest of my life, that's a tricky question, but I'm happy just to create stuff, and that's what's make me happy, really. I just enjoy like creating stuff, whether it's illustration or try to make a short film. This kind of thing is, yeah, that's what really motivates me in the VFX, and yeah, basically telling stories. That's really what I enjoy, and if I can do that for the rest of my life, I would be very happy. So that's pretty much it for today. I think I answered most of the questions. So yeah, if you have some more questions, by all means, like send me emails or on LinkedIn or whatever in YouTube. I usually try to answer, but you can imagine that with my responsibilities in all my projects, it's sometimes hard to kind of answer to everyone. So don't get offended if I forget to answer to your email. You can also try to bump it at some point if I really don't answer. But yeah, otherwise you can expect maybe your question to show up in this kind of Q&A. So thanks again everyone for watching and for your support over the past year. It's been really awesome. I really appreciate it. So thank you. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.